Some warnings arrive like whispers through fog, so subtle you almost miss them, yet sharp enough to slice through routine like a blade. I am the watcher, and my gaze cuts through the curtains of the everyday, where shadows dance and secrets linger. Tonight I invite you into a story called The Florist's Secret. Listen closely, because the simplest choices, a bouquet, a word, a path, can alter the course of your fate. You're in Tales of the Watcher, where fates are glimpsed, not told, and every step you take is seen by eyes you'll never meet. The air hums with secrets, daring you to listen. Stick around, subscribe for the journey, and in today's story, it was a rainy afternoon in a city always in a hurry. A fine drizzle tapped umbrellas, blending with the hiss of tires on wet asphalt. The air smelled of damp concrete. And something else, bittersweet, like flowers wilting in the heat. Among grey buildings stood a small flower shop, its window fogged, glowing a soft yellow, a flame against the gloom. The half-open door breathed a scent, fresh earth, petals, and mystery, as if the shop held more than just flowers. Lucia, 32, accountant. She stopped. Something in her pulled toward the window, not logic, not need, but something deeper, older. She stepped inside. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of roses, lilies, and carnations. Outside, noise faded to a hush. The only sound was the soft rustle of petals. An elderly woman stood behind the counter, arranging flowers with slow precision. Her hands were aged and steady, but her eyes, deep, almost intrusive, felt as if they could see behind your thoughts. Lucia chose white lilies and red carnations, drawn to their contrast. As the florist tied the stems with rough twine, she spoke, her voice low, almost conspiratorial. Lilies for farewells, carnations for broken promises. Choose your path carefully, dear. Lucia gave an awkward laugh, brushing it off as eccentricity. But when she took the bouquet, the woman's fingers brushed hers, cold as stone, and a shiver ran down her spine. She glanced at the window. A vague shadow moved, but when she turned, the street was empty. Only the rain. That night, in her apartment, the bouquet sat in a vase on the dining table. Under a dim lamp, the petals looked as if they pulsed, like they were breathing. The florist's words echoed in her mind, clinging like the dampness still in her clothes. She tried to forget it. Just a strange moment in an ordinary day. But something in her wouldn't let go. As she prepared for bed, silence filled the apartment. Thick, weighty. Only the drip of a kitchen faucet broke it. And then, the dream came. A deserted street. The scent of lilies, thick, suffocating. A clock ticking somewhere she couldn't see. A whisper in the dark calling her name. A door opened, revealing only blackness. She woke up gasping. The clock read 3:33, nothing. Moved, but the silence felt alive. Morning came grey. Rain still whispering outside. She laughed it off. Blamed exhaustion. A dream, nothing more. At the office, she tried to focus. Spreadsheets, deadlines, routine. But her mind wandered. Back to the flowers. Back to the dream. During a break, she grabbed her phone. Searched almost out of curiosity. Almost like a game. White lilies, morning, red carnations, betrayal, unfulfilled promises. Her brow furrowed. A knot tightened in her chest. She shut the phone. Annoyed with herself, irritated that she even gave it attention. But in the elevator, alone, a chill crept over her. She could have sworn she heard it. A whisper, maybe her name. The elevator hummed, empty, silent. That night, while reviewing emails, Her phone rang. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "You chose the right flowers, Lucia. Pay attention to the signs." Before she could reply, the call dropped. She froze, phone still in hand. The office, empty. The lights above buzzed faintly. Outside, the city blurred behind the glass, a curtain of rain and shadow. She tried to call back. Number out of service. In the days that followed, unease grew, like a shadow at dusk, stretching further with each hour. Lucia returned to the flower shop, determined to confront the florist, but the door was locked. A sign hung crookedly, closed for renovation. Through the misted glass, the flowers still sat quietly in the gloom. But something had shifted. A man swept the sidewalk nearby. When asked, he shrugged. The owner? She vanished a few days ago. No one's seen her since. Lucia's stomach tightened. Small details began to pile up, each one more unsettling than the last. The scent of lilies in her building's hallway, on the street, even in her car, where no flowers had ever been. Then, one morning, she opened the driver's side door and froze. A red carnation, fresh, bright, rested on the passenger seat. She hadn't put it there. She knew she hadn't. The car had been locked. Her mind scrambled for explanations. A prank, a mistake, but nothing made sense. Nothing felt random anymore. The city began to conspire. In the subway, the lights flickered, just for a second, but enough. In that flash, she saw her, the florist, standing across the crowd, watching, expression unreadable, eyes locked on hers. Then the lights steadied. She was gone, only the rumble of the train and the pounding in Lucia's chest. At home, a faint ticking began to haunt her, subtle, persistent, always at night. She searched the apartment, drawer por drawer. Nada. No clock, no explanation. But the sound would come back, always when she was alone. Tick, tick, tick. She stayed longer at work, avoided her apartment. But the feeling of being watched, that never left her. A week after the flower shop, something arrived. An envelope, cream-colored, her name handwritten in delicate script. Inside, an invitation, a networking event, at an old mansion on the city's outskirts, hosted by a company she'd never heard of. She showed it to her boss. He insisted she attend. "It'll be good for your career," he said. She hesitated. Something about it felt off. But when she opened the invitation, a faint scent wafted out. Lilacs. No, lilacs don't smell. Like that, it was lilies, and so she said yes. The mansion was massive, its stone walls draped in ivy, windows glowing through the storm. Rain poured endlessly, drumming against the glass and soaking the path to the entrance. Inside, the air was thick. The lighting flickered from old chandeliers that swung gently overhead. Corridors twisted in odd directions, and the shadows seemed to shift when she wasn't looking. Lucia moved through the crowd, unfamiliar faces brushing past her. Laughter echoed faintly, but it didn't reach the eyes of the people around her. She clutched her glass of wine, untouched. Her heartbeat louder than the music. Something was wrong. Too polished, too perfect, too staged. Then, from across the room, a man stepped toward her. Tall, confident, a red carnation pinned to his lapel. "Lucia," he said with a smile that felt rehearsed. "I knew you'd come." It was the voice from the phone. He spoke with the ease of someone who had been waiting. He said he admired her choice of flowers, how they revealed what people tried to hide. He said flowers had meanings, and those meanings had consequences. "Lilies and carnations," he said, his voice smooth, "are a warning. You've felt it, haven't you? that something's coming. Lucia tried to stay composed, but her hands trembled. He leaned in slightly, lowering his voice. I'd like to explain. Meet me tomorrow. For coffee, there's more to this than you think. He handed her a card with an address across the city. She nodded, murmured something polite, and slipped away into the crowd. In the bathroom, she splashed water on her face, her mind racing. It had to be a coincidence. A strange man. A strange night. But when she stepped out, a red carnation lay on the floor, directly in her path. Back in her apartment, sleepless, Lucia looked up the address the man had given her. It was a street known for frequent accidents, sharp turns, heavy traffic, bad lighting. She sat back in her chair, her chest tight. Everything about it felt wrong. Still, she couldn't shake the idea that this meeting wasn't random, that it was part of something unfolding just beneath the surface of her reality. In the following days, her unease deepened. A colleague casually mentioned dreaming of flowers. Lucia dropped her coffee. On the street, she passed a vendor selling white lilies. He didn't say a word, just stared at her, too long, too still. Every detail was a signal she couldn't decipher. Do you want me to continue with the next scene? The morning she decides whether or not to go. It was the morning of the meeting. The rain had stopped, but the streets were still slick with puddles and reflections. Lucia sat behind the wheel, fingers tapping the steering wheel at the red light. Her mind spun in circles. Then she saw it, on the passenger seat, next to her bag, a red carnation. Not from yesterday, not from any florist. She hadn't placed it there. Her breath caught. And suddenly, the florist's voice returned to her mind. Choose your path carefully. The light turned green. She turned left, away from the cafe. She kept driving, far from the cafe. No destination, just away. Her hands gripped the wheel. Her heart was pounding. Then the radio cut in, static at first, and then a bulletin. A serious accident has occurred on Rua Marechal Prado at 9:42 this morning. A truck lost control on the curve and struck two parked cars. Authorities have confirmed no survivors. The words echoed in the cabin like a bell. That was the street. That was the time. That was where she was supposed to be. She pulled over, shaking. On the passenger seat, the carnation remained. She hadn't placed it there. She didn't need to understand it. She just knew. Her choice had saved her life. The following days passed in a haze. Lucia returned to the flower shop. It had reopened under new ownership. A young woman behind the counter greeted her with a polite smile. When asked about the previous florist, she looked confused. There was no one here before me, she said. I just rented the space last week. The lilies no longer followed Lucia. The ticking had stopped. The carnation on the car seat had withered into silence. Still, she kept the invitation, folded neatly in a drawer. Beside it, a single dried petal, red, delicate, almost weightless. She never told anyone, not truly, who would believe it. But she had changed. Her eyes noticed more now. A strange word in a stranger's mouth. A flower that didn't belong. A scent that arrived too soon. She didn't say she believed in warnings, but she never ignored them again. And I was there. At the corner where she turned left, where fate cracked open, where a thread was severed. Who placed the carnation? Who whispered through the florist? These are questions I keep, because the shadows know more than they reveal. And you, listener, have you ever stopped to think about the flowers that cross your path? The next time you choose a bouquet, look closely. It might just be a flower, or it might be a warning. This is Tales of the Watcher, where shadows speak. What eyes can't see until the next mystery. Choose your path carefully.